Hey, discerning listeners, sister wives. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. And keep in mind that everything I say is completely speculative based on the edit that they provide. I hope that I always word things extremely tentatively and say, I don't really know what's happening here, but we can use this as a jumping off point to talk about things in a more general sense. So keep that in mind. Let's watch.
And then after Christmas, Christine said that Isabel and everybody are coming home and they want to come see the family here.
Oh man, this is exactly what I was afraid of with Christine leaving.
Kody, it just was working out that we had a vacation rental, so we extended it so Christine and her kids could come so they can see, the Truly and Isabel can see you.
Okay, am I the only one that sees this as some kind of betrayal?
Okay, that's interesting, because if he knows it's not a betrayal, then he would know, or he would suspect, that Mary and Robin would not support him in this. So that makes me think he actually is distorting, which we all do, particularly under stress, that he is distorting this as a betrayal, which is a different hypothesis, that he's not waking up in the morning. And you know me, I'm not the sort of person that tends to think that way, that when people are jerk faces or doing strange behavior, that, I'll often say, it's not like she woke up in the morning and decided to ruin her life and to alienate everyone. No one does that. She's distorting because of trauma and difficulty, whatever schemas. So I'm not a fan of the fact that I've been doing that with Kody. It just looks that way, but it's absolutely possible that he has trauma that I am having a hard time either knowing about or conceptualizing or seeing, and that he is distorting most, if not all, of what's happening around him. And that's resulting in him having his very, very strange take on things, which results in him having very, very strange behavior. It's absolutely possible. So if it is betrayal based, then he has betrayal trauma in his childhood, and he sees betrayals where they don't exist. And then he gets very, very hurt. And then he gets very, very vindictive. Not everyone with borderline personality will do this, but it is one of the potential profiles. I'm not diagnosing him, but I've seen that before. I'm thinking of some clients, and gender sometimes plays a role in how borderline will present, but not really if you don't look at the behaviors through your own gender lens. Because anyway, I won't go down that rabbit hole, but yeah, I mean, that's an hypothesis. And maybe if he always had that vulnerability, it was kept at bay because he had so much affirmation that he had secure attachments, because he had so many wives that were always in the position of pursuer of him. That's interesting. That's interesting, right? And then as the sister wives grew up and the kids started to move out and they didn't need him as much anymore, they were less dependent on him, in the subtle interactions as the years progressed in Vegas in particular, because the kids were moving out during those years, that he felt betrayed because they were just kind of, and particularly what Mary did, right? I mean, yeah. Well, let's add that to the list to keep an eye on. I'm guessing I won't get any data along those lines because, well, I don't know. Okay.
A betrayal.
Christine just left.
You don't want her to bring the kids to see you?
Oh, I'd like to see the kids, but you're talking about everybody going to some neutral zone?
If we go with, which I would say is a 50-50 possibility based on my processing of all the data that is available to us on an edited TV show, that there's a 50% chance that right now he actually feels betrayed by this, even though no one would consider this a betrayal, especially if they knew all the details, right? My dogs are barking. So that's interesting to contemplate. And it wouldn't, so someone with borderline personality tendencies, and it's, there's a spectrum, that would be a very easy distortion to have. And it's not a foreign distortion to me as someone who specializes in borderline and also has come across a lot of men with borderline that are almost never diagnosed by clinicians with borderline because men are, because there's a bias about borderline, that it's always women, and all the profiles that are provided in education and in popular culture are almost always women. It's really hard. In fact, I would challenge anyone to find any easily Googleable example of someone with borderline who is a man, who identifies as a man. I don't come across it very often, even in my clinical world. I'll hear professors talk and other clinicians talk about borderline, and they'll be like, yeah, so it's a hypothetical client, so she, and I do that too. I try not to, but, so anyway, my point is that if he has that, it's just that word betrayal. And also if he is being genuine here and honest about how he sees things, then borderline would be up there. I would imagine that if he does suffer from the traumas and the schemas involved in something that we would call borderline, it would be moderate to mild for him, because if it were severe, we would have seen things a long time ago. Not that it wouldn't be happening behind closed doors, but I think we would have noticed something, because severe borderline it's hard to, for those individuals, unfortunately for them, because of the amount of trauma that they went through, almost on a minute-by-minute basis, they are interpreting everything as a betrayal and an abandonment, or a very, but very close to being abandoned and betrayed, and will be very hurt and will be very angry, which is justified in their mind because of how poorly they think they're being treated, even though it may or may not be happening. So I'll say that. But it is an interesting thing. If he is, at the very least, if he has a betrayal schema, then it would explain why he would be so strange. And so he's asking, am I wrong here? That seems to indicate that he thinks that it's obvious to people from the outside, which is true for people on the borderline spectrum. They will think, well, isn't it obvious that I'm being betrayed and abandoned and harmed here? It's obvious. Just look at it. And anyone from the outside will be like, no, I don't see it.
Left.
You don't want her to bring the kids to see you?
Oh, I'd like to see the kids, but you're talking about everybody going to some neutral zone? This is my house.
The last I knew is that they boys couldn't come until they showed respect and apologized.
And it is a classic outcome of the borderline condition relationally, that they will actually be the one abandoning and betraying others, which is absolutely how I have been describing what he has been doing to his kids. He has been abandoning them. I don't think I've been saying betraying, but that word fits as well, in that it's complicated, and I won't go down a whole rabbit hole about projective identification and internalization, but in a nutshell, when the young child is being betrayed and abandoned, they internalize that relationship, and they internalize both sides, both their perception of themselves as being abandoned and worthless, and they internalize the other as the abandoner and the betrayer. And they possess ongoing, over time, aspects of both at the same time, and it becomes a psychodynamic in that internally they are betraying themselves through self-talk and other kinds of sabotage, and then there's a person inside that feels constantly worthless and they deserve to be betrayed, that kind of thing. And it becomes a psychodynamic, makes it hard. This is a lot of psychobabble. There's not a lot of science around this. There's some, but it's one of those models of personality that is hard, if not impossible, to measure through data. But it's a model for understanding complex human psychology and behavior that, to me, often pans out. And there's no other psychological theory that explains this kind of thing. There just isn't. I could go into detail on this. I mean, it depends. Anyway, but one of the defenses of projective identification, because this is hard to deal with, is to externalize one side and identify with the other. So he is potentially socializing others. This is interesting. Wow. He is potentially what we call socializing or manipulating or pushing people, influencing people to behave in a way that will agree with his assumption that he's going to be abandoned and betrayed. So the whole thing with all of the COVID precautions is a subconscious. It's not conscious. People don't do this consciously, as a way of socializing others to make it easier for him to identify with his child self of being abandoned and betrayed, and pushing everyone into, in his mind, other people treating him the way that he was treated when he was young. But from the outside, it's the opposite, where you have anyone looking at it would say he's the one that is abandoning and betraying. And it feels that way when you're the recipient of it. So it's this weird recreation where the individual feels like they're the child figure and everyone else is the parent figure that's abandoning them. But in reality, they're the parent figure and they're making everyone else feel the way that they felt when they were a child. This one question provoked that, when he said, am I wrong here? Because if he was, purposely trying to engineer, and he knew he was shoving a round peg into a square hole, he wouldn't ask that. I don't think he would ask that question, because it would actually hang him out to dry. And, who knows? And this fits better with, generally speaking, my model of human beings. Certainly people can wake up in the morning and want to be jerk faces and be jerk faces. But people don't usually do that. People are usually waking up in the morning and trying to be good people and trying to do the right thing. And along the way, if we have unprocessed, unhealed, unself-aware trauma, relational traumas, they will distort our reactivity and our perception, and we will act from that distortion, and it will cause us to be jerk faces. This feels better. I don't like to think that people wake up in the morning. I'll still hold out 50. I was saying 50-50. At this point, I'm thinking more like 70-30.
So now he's looking for reinforcement from Robin and Mary. Let's build a united front against Janelle and her decisions.
I'm struggling here with the Christmas scenario. So I'm asking Mary and Robin to chime in. Like, I can't identify what it is specifically about it bothering me. It's like, is this bothering you guys?
Okay, well, if that's his approach, then that's healthy. If he truly is in that space where he's like, something feels wrong here. I feel like this is a betrayal, and I'm asking genuinely, am I wrong or right here? It didn't look like he was asking that way, but when he says it, and this is, an interview well after the fact, then that's okay. And I am going to take a guess. Well, so Mary will avoid, because she typically will. One, because that's just her way. Two, because I don't know if she knows what she thinks or wants. She's seemingly operating from a frequent place of survival, trying to just get through things. And then Robin will be, I think, caught between a rock and a hard place. And also Mary doesn't like Janelle, because Janelle doesn't like Mary. And they're, they've been at odds for a long time. I don't know if it's that strong. Anyway, but then with Robin, she would be between a rock and a hard place, because I'm guessing that she is thinking, I don't know if this is exactly, maybe there's some complaint that Kody could communicate here, but the way he's saying it is too far. I think that she would think, I don't know. And yet she would worry about, well, shit, he lives with me 24/7 and I have to, and he's already angry at women, as I've already talked about. I don't want to have him, and it's possible he's even being verbally and emotionally abusive at home with her. I don't know. But at the very least, difficult to deal with, as she has said, which we could imagine. And he would punish her, or at least not be in a good mood. So she would be between a rock and a hard place. And so I'm guessing that if Robin even attempts to answer, she will ride that line. She will try to show loyalty while not really agreeing with what he's saying, or focusing on an aspect of it that she can agree with him. So let's see what happens.
What do you want us to comment on?
I mean, have an opinion.
Okay, well, we'll watch more, but Mary didn't say anything. And Robin is asking good questions like, so what exactly? Which I think indicates, or should indicate to Kody, that he is distorting. So maybe he'll hear that.
Here, this is bugging the hell out of me. Am I wrong?
What was I supposed to do, Kody? What were they supposed to do?
Oh, man, I don't know why every time we start talking about family stuff, something broadsides me.
And you said that they could not come over until they...
Okay. So Robin effectively dodged the bullet by very unenthusiastically asking, what is it you want me to react to? Which typically Robin will absolutely stand by her man, sometimes in a way that is ill-advised. So I think that indicates that Robin is thinking either I don't understand what's going on, or I don't agree with what you're doing, Kody. It doesn't make any sense, which is encouraging. But Kody is now truly he's now hung out to dry. I think it would have been more functional, and it's impossible to imagine this happening, if Kody were to turn to the other wives and say, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I guess I need some help working through this. So can we just pause, and can I get a hug from someone? I don't know, something like that. Because I think that's what he was actually searching for. I think he feels hurt. And, if he truly does believe he's being abandoned and betrayed by his kids, which is the opposite of what's happening, he might be looking for some love, some indication that he's a good person, and doesn't know that and doesn't know how to ask for it. Instead, he asked what he asked, and he got what he got, and he could spiral. This could go. My point is there's some indication in his tone of voice that this could actually skyrocket in terms of his rage and hurt, and he typically has no way of being able to communicate that. I mean, I've seen worse for sure, so I'm not going to say that he's top of the heap when it comes to dysfunctional and problematic responses to emotion. But he certainly, he has exhibited some strengths when it comes to emotion. So we'll see what happens here, but I wouldn't be surprised if he explodes, or mini explodes.
We had this conversation a little bit, and I thought that it was a little bit more clear when we were at my house a couple of weeks ago. I thought that he had made it clear that it wasn't, well, you just have to apologize and that we're good. I thought he had made it clear then.
Okay, interesting. I didn't expect that. That tells me that I think Mary is biased against Janelle. Did he, quote unquote, make it clear, that he's not asking for the kids to grovel? Yeah, but it's kind of in that direction. Plus, even if it is just a quote unquote conversation, they have no incentive, because Kody has not reached out and provided any reason to believe that they're safe to do so, or that it will result in warmth or goodness or anything, because Kody is rejecting them outright for no reason, or literally for no reason. And we saw in that scene with Gabe that, of course, they are desperate for love and attention from Kody, which, of course, any parent would understand and feel compelled to provide.
And I'm not going to leave my kids here in Flagstaff having a separate Christmas when I'm at Robin's with her and her kids and Kody and Mary. Sorry, not interested. I'd rather be with my boys.
If I was in the same situation as Janelle is in, and all of my kids were going to be in town, I for sure would want to go be with them.
I absolutely remember saying that. I think you just didn't hear it. I corrected that. I said, that's not a good idea.
Well, okay, fine. Hopefully, Janelle, and I imagine she will, say, okay, fine, it was a conversation, but the bigger picture situation is that your kids feel hurt and don't trust you, not because of anything that I said. I want you to trust me on that. And the solution is that you reach out to them and show that you care and love them, and maybe they will absolutely be amenable to having whatever conversation you want to have. All right, well, I want to thank everyone for subscribing to the YouTube channel and liking the videos and also hitting the bell thing. I'm actually starting to do that with a lot of channels that I follow because I'm finding that sometimes the algorithm for the For You page on YouTube will forget that I like a certain channel. And with a lot of my favorite channels, I don't want to miss anything. And maybe I don't always watch everything. And you get this little... Oops, I hit the microphone. You get, at least on the browser version, you get this little red dot notification on the bell, and then you can look through those. And, you don't want to do too many channels because then every day you're going to get like hundreds of new videos suggested to you. But anyway, so I say all this because although I was asking people, because I would see other YouTube channels say, hit the bell icon. And I would repeat that, but I didn't really know what it meant until recently. I was like, oh, this is actually kind of useful for a select few. So if I am one of those select channels that you tend to watch most of my videos, then, hitting the bell icon, make sure that you never miss anything. And take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.